What's up, guys? How we doing today? Hope y'all are doing fantastic. Today we're going to be talking about understanding federal gun-free zones, where you can't carry a firearm, which, in my opinion, is you should be able to carry a firearm everywhere. Gun-free zones are pointless. They're like that song, War, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Gun-free zones. What are gun-free zones good for? Absolutely nothing. But anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. I'll be right back. Okay, so federal gun-free zones. Now, I picked this article up from concealednation.org, and I use these guys a lot because they do a lot of like the self-defense stories of incidences where firearms are used in self-protection, where a good guy with a gun saves the day. And so I use these guys a lot, and I came across this article. It's kind of an older article. It was published back in July of 2024, but the information's probably still pretty valid. And so we're going to talk about that. So carrying a firearm comes with a great responsibility, including understanding where it's legally permissible to carry. Federal gun-free zones determine where you can't carry a firearm, even if you have a permit. Being aware of these federal gun-free zones is essential for staying compliant with the law and ensuring the safety of yourself and others. Note: some instances of this article will talk about carrying a firearm and or carrying a concealed firearm. In general, carrying a firearm in any manner in federal gun-free zones is typically not allowed. And some of these might vary from state to state, but the federal buildings and stuff like that, they're pretty much set you can't. But again, I don't think there should be any gun-free zones. Gun-free zones are pointless because I don't know the exact percentage. I didn't look that up before I started, but a vast majority of these shootings that you hear of, these mass shootings that you hear of, happen in gun-free zones. They happen in schools. They happen in churches. They happen in buildings that typically no guns allowed. You know, they're typically gun-free zones or gun-free states or gun-free cities or whatever. That's where the majority of them happen. So it's like gun-free zones don't really solve very many problems. But anyway, okay. One of the primary federal gun-free zones are federal buildings. This includes courthouses, federal offices, other facilities owned or leased by the federal government. The Federal Facilities Code 18 U.S.C. Section 930 explicitly prohibits the possession of a firearm in federal facilities with few exceptions. Violating this law can result in severe penalties, up to including fines and imprisonment. It is important to note that this prohibition extends to all areas within federal buildings, not just public spaces. This means that even if you are employed within the building, you cannot carry a concealed firearm unless specifically authorized. Employees and visitors alike must comply with these regulations. National parks and wildlife refuges. While the law governs firearms in national parks have evolved over the years, carrying a firearm is generally allowed under the same regulations that apply to the state in which the park is located. However, federal buildings within these states, such as visitor centers and ranger stations, remain off limits. It's important to note that each park may have specific rules, so checking the regulations before visiting is crucial. So some national parks you can, as long as you're outside in the park. You just can't go in any of the buildings, the visitor centers, stuff like that. You're not technically allowed to carry. Like I said, this could vary. This one even said it could vary from state to state based on what state that national park is in. If you live in a good state, then they would probably allow you to carry your gun in the park area of it. But the federal buildings are a no-no. So, note to self: stay out of federal buildings. I mean, I got to go to the post office every once in a while, but stay out of federal buildings as much as possible. I had to go to the courthouse the other day to turn in some divorce papers, and I had to leave my gun in the car because I can't take it inside the building. But that had metal detectors and police presence everywhere, so probably shouldn't take it in there anyway. They've got enough presence in there that if something did happen, hopefully I would think that the police got it handled. But it is the police we're talking about. But I live in a decent state and a decent city where the police are actually, I wouldn't say they're on our side, but they're a little bit more believing kind of the same way we believe. So I think, but anyway, off that little tangent, I had to leave my gun in the car when I had to go to drop off some divorce papers. And I had to, and when I go in the post office, those are about the only two federal buildings I really go in that I really know of. I try to avoid places like that, but anyway, federal courthouses are strictly off limits for concealed carry. These buildings are high security areas where the presence of firearms is strictly controlled. Security personnel screen all visitors, and anyone found with a firearm can face serious legal consequences. This restriction is part of a broader efforts to maintain safety and order with the judicial system. I kind of get it in a way in a courthouse, because courts, if you're in a court and, somebody could want to retaliate against you, if it's depending on the case, depending on the situation, so I get that, because, there are stupid people out there that would do stupid stuff, even in a courtroom. But you've got enough police presence there and armed guards that you should not have to worry too much about being unsafe. But anyway, again, enough of that. I'm not trying to side with the gun-free zones here. I'm just saying some of it kind of makes sense-ish, but again, I'm not siding with that. I'm 100% for no gun-free zones, period. Anyway, on with the story now. The security measures in the federal courthouses are rigorous, including metal detectors, x-ray machines, and security personnel trained to handle potential threats. These measures are in place to protect judges, jurors, attorneys, and the general public. The introduction of firearms into this environment can escalate conflicts and pose significant risks. Yes, they can, because if you're in court for whatever reason and you did something wrong to somebody, or they think you did something wrong to somebody, and they come in and try to retaliate, it could escalate rather quickly. So I guess that's okay. I guess I will accept no guns in a courtroom. Moreover, the prohibition of firearms in federal courthouses extends to surrounding areas such as parking lots and adjacent facilities. This ensures comprehensive security perimeters, preventing any potential threats from gaining proximity to these sensitive areas. Individuals attending court proceedings, whether as participants or spectators, must adhere to these regulations and maintain safety and integrity of the judicial process. Whoops! I left mine in the car in the parking lot. Oops! I didn't leave it at home. Well, I'm not going to leave it at home. I'm going to carry it on me, and then when I get to the parking lot of wherever, I'm going to stash it in the car somewhere. So I don't care. I'm not. I got to go. I can't bring it into the parking lot. So if that's a crime, well, I guess I committed a crime. But so be it. I didn't do anything wrong, obviously. I just left it in the car, and when I got back to the car, I drove away. I wasn't there to mean any harm, and I left it in the car. But anyway, I just confessed. Okay, airports and aircraft. Okay. Federal gun-free zones also extend high in the sky, prohibiting firearms in secured areas of airports, including passenger screening checkpoints and the aircraft itself. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, enforces these regulations to ensure the safety of passengers and crew members. While firearms can be transported in checked baggage, they must be declared, unloaded, stored in locked, hard-sided containers. Failure to comply with these regulations can result in hefty fines and potential criminal charges. So you can't carry a gun on an airplane, but you can take your guns. Like if you're traveling on an airplane to do something with your guns, to go to a gun show or whatever, you can travel with your guns. They just have to be in a hard case. They have to be unloaded, obviously, in a hard case with a lock, and you have to declare it to TSA. You have to say, "Hey, I've got guns in this box," and you have to allow them to check it and declare it, and they put a tag on it, and they put it down in their check bags, and so they know what they have, and they know that the ammunition's in one box, the guns are in another box, they're both locked, they're, stuff like that. So and you have to declare it when you walk in. You have to say, yes, these boxes have guns in them, so that they know that you're traveling with guns. You obviously can't have one on your person. That would be... Anyway. Federal penal institutions are designed to house individuals who have been convicted of federal crimes. The presence of firearms in these facilities can lead to dangerous situations, including attempts to escape or violent confrontations. The strict prohibition of firearms ensures the safety of both the inmates and correctional staff. I wonder if that was supposed to be on a different page than aircrafts. I wonder, did I get my pages off a little? I don't know. Let's see. No, maybe I missed a page. Okay, whatever. Additionally, the surrounding areas of these institutions are also off limits for carrying firearms. This creates a secure perimeter, reducing the risk of firearms being smuggled into the facility. Understanding these restrictions is crucial for anyone who may need to visit or work near these institutions. Military bases. I think that's kind of a dumb idea. Military base, you can't carry a gun on a military base. Military institutions have specific regulations regarding firearms. While service members and authorized personnel may carry firearms on base, civilians, including those with concealed carry permits, generally cannot. Each military base may have its own set of rules, so it's essential to check with the specific military base. It's essential to check with the specific institution before attempting to bring a firearm onto the premises. Military bases are high security areas with strict protocols to ensure the safety of personnel and sensitive equipment. The presence of unauthorized firearms can compromise security and pose significant risks. Each base has its own set of regulations, often outlined in the base's security protocols. Post offices. One of the few places I actually go somewhat on a regular basis. Federal gun-free zones also prohibits carrying firearms in U.S. Postal Service facilities. Post offices are considered federal buildings, and the same restrictions that apply to other federal facilities are enforced here. Violating this regulation can result in serious legal consequences, including fines and imprisonment. Individuals visiting post office must comply with these regulations and refrain from bringing firearms onto the premises. Understanding these restrictions is crucial for anyone using postal services to avoid legal consequences and ensure public safety. Schools and educational systems. But yeah, post offices, it is what it is. I don't believe in really gun-free zones at all. But like the military bases, and the only one that I think you shouldn't be able to carry a gun in is the courthouse, the courts, because those can escalate quickly because tempers can flare in courthouses. Other than that, there should be any gun-free zones. None of these places. You should be able to carry a gun in any of these places. Because as soon as you put your gun away, walk into one of these buildings, that's not to say a criminal's not going to still walk in there with a gun and start shooting. I mean, have you ever heard that term, go postal? Especially the post office. That's where that came from. Some postal workers went crazy. Anyway, back to this story. Schools and educational institutions. Now, this one might be a little bit more state regulated because I know in my state, as long as you have a concealed carry permit, you can carry in any of these schools or institutions. You can't if you don't. If you don't have one, you can't. But as long as you have a concealed carry permit, you can carry in schools, in pretty much any school. Individuals, under the Gun-Free School Zone Act, carrying a firearm on school property, including elementary school, secondary school, and post-secondary institutions, is generally prohibited. This law is intended to enhance the safety and security of educational environments. Some exceptions exist for authorized personnel and individuals with specific permits, but generally these areas are off limits for concealed carry. Again, it says specific permits, and that's probably state regulated because, like I said, in my state, as long as you have that concealed carry permit, we are a constitutional carry state, so you can carry without a permit. But there are certain places you can't carry without the permit, so I went ahead and got the permit anyway because I have kids that go to school, and by golly, I'm carrying a gun in that school if I have to, because I'm going as few places as possible without it. And a school, there's been so many school shootings nowadays that, yeah. Certain exceptions to these laws include authorized personnel, such as law enforcement officers, who are permitted to carry on public property or on school property. Amtrak and train stations, or Amtrak trains and stations. While firearms can be transported on Amtrak trains, they must be checked and declared in advance, kind of like on an airplane. Passengers are not allowed to carry firearms in their possession while on board or in Amtrak stations. Passengers wishing to transport firearms must follow specific procedures, including declaring the firearms and ensuring it is unloaded and properly stored. Government-owned properties. Other government-owned properties such as Veterans Affairs facilities, federal research labs, and certain historical sites are also federal gun-free zones. Each facility may have its own specific rules and signage indicating restrictions, so it's important to be aware of these regulations when visiting such locations. Importance of understanding federal gun-free zones. Understanding federal gun-free zones is vital for responsible gun ownership. These laws are in place regardless of whether or not you agree with them. Yep, that's the problem is, and they had to put that in there. These laws are in place regardless whether you agree with them or not. So they are regulations. And we may think it's bullshit, but they're there, there's nothing we can do about it. Violating these restrictions can result in severe legal consequences, including fines, imprisonment, and revocation of concealed carry permits. Responsible firearm ownership involves more than just knowing how to use a firearm. It requires an understanding of the laws and regulations that govern where and how firearms can be carried, which includes the federal gun-free zones that we've discussed. By staying informed about federal gun-free zones, firearm owners can ensure they are compliant with the law and contribute to a safer society. Gun-free zones don't create a safer society, as we've seen lately. A lot of these shootings are happening in gun-free zones. All right, safety tip. Always familiarize yourself with federal, state, and local laws regarding concealed carry. Ignorance of the laws is not a defense, and understanding where you can legally carry a firearm is crucial for responsible ownership and public safety. So you can't just play dumb. Oh, I didn't know that was a law. Well, it is, and you're gonna, that's like I was speeding one day because I didn't see a speed limit sign, and I was speeding apparently, and I got pulled over. This was a long time ago, but I got pulled over, and it's like, well, I didn't know what the speed limit was. I didn't see a sign. Oh, well, it's this. There's a sign back there. And then when I went back there, it was the other side. I was coming down the road here, and I turned right, but the sign was over here on this side. So I was here, and so the sign was, but there was a sign technically, and I still got me a ticket. So I couldn't just play dumb. I had to actually got me a ticket wrote up. So, but anyway, like I said, I personally don't believe in it, but like it said, they're there, whether you agree with it or not. I don't, but I think I think the Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. There shouldn't be any regulations at all, but common sense, they always say common sense gun laws, common sense gun laws. Well, we need to have common sense gun ownership too. You may fight over common sense gun laws, and most of them common sense gun laws aren't common sense. It's just a way to control us. But courthouses, inside the courthouse, okay, I get it. Tempers can be flared in a post office. You're just there to drop off a package or pick up a package. A federal park, national park. You're walking around the park, having fun, having a good time with your family, and then you have a gun on you but you can't go into that building because you don't have a gun. It's stupid. Okay, it's retarded. Wait, am I allowed to say that? It's ridiculous. How about that? It's ridiculous. You can't. But the only one I see is like airplanes, obviously, because stupid people do stupid things. But courthouses, tempers flare, stupid people do stupid things. But everywhere else, stupid people do stupid things, so you should be able to protect yourself when stupid people do stupid things. I mean, even if it's the post office. If somebody comes in with a gun in the post office, you're screwed because, well, I'm law-abiding and I'm not going to carry my gun in the post office, but that doesn't mean a criminal's not going to walk in with a gun. So, anyway, understanding gun-free zones. They're stupid, but they do exist, and unfortunately, we have to follow those rules. And if it's a problem, just don't go into federal buildings. Don't go into, if it says gun-free zone and you don't want to go in because you want to carry your gun, turn around and walk away. That's about all I can say, because you're not going to be able to change those laws. No matter what we do, they're there whether you like it or not. You may agree with, you may not agree. I don't agree with them, but again, they're there, and there's nothing we can do about it except obey them or disobey them and hope you don't get caught. But you're not hearing that from me. I'm not telling you to break any laws. Just you do you. But if you do that, just know that if you do get caught, you could potentially never be able to legally own guns again, because they will probably hit you with felony charges, I would imagine. Because they're going to do whatever they can to get guns out of as many people's hands as they can. So it's law-abiding citizens. We're so evil. They want to get as many of the guns out of our hands as possible because we obey the laws. So get the guns out of the law-abiding citizens' hands. So if you're carrying them into a gun-free zone, then you're not a law-abiding citizen. But I consider law-abiding citizens as we don't own guns to go out and commit crimes. We mean no harm. We just want to protect ourselves. And if you want to carry your gun concealed into a post office or into wherever you want to carry it into, and just hope you don't get caught, that's on you. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm not telling you not to do that. Just act accordingly. Anyway, that's the video for today. I appreciate every single one of you. This wouldn't happen without you guys. I've hit some goals for the year, still working on some goals, but if you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe button and do the things. I've got some big plans for next year. It's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be awesome. Got some special guests coming, and yeah, it's gonna be fun. So stay tuned for that. But anyway, appreciate y'all. Love you. YouTube stuff down below. Again, subscribe, like, comment. You know the drill. Share the show so we can get out there. That's the best way to grow, is from sharing the show. Anyway, appreciate y'all. Love you. We'll see you in the next one.